Hello everyone, you are on the channel Who Created It and How. Today we're diving into a topic that governs our daily lives, yet we rarely stop to think about its origins. We're talking about the calendar. How did we go from tracking seasons to meticulously planning our days, weeks, and years? Let's unravel the secret of the first calendar. Our story begins not with a single invention, but with a gradual awakening. Early humans were, first and foremost, observers of nature. Their survival depended on understanding the patterns of the world around them. The changing seasons dictated when to plant and when to harvest, when animal herds would migrate, and when to prepare for harsh weather. These weren't just casual observations. They were matters of life and death. The sun's path across the sky, the moon's ever-changing phases, and the shifting constellations were their clock and their guide. Imagine looking up at the night sky, not just with wonder, but with a need to understand. The moon was particularly fascinating. It waxed and waned in a predictable cycle, roughly every 29.5 days. This rhythmic dance was one of the first methods humans used to mark the passage of time beyond a single day. Many early cultures developed lunar calendars based entirely on the phases of the moon. A new month would begin with the first sliver of the new moon. Simple, elegant, and directly observable. But there was a problem. A year of 12 lunar months adds up to about 354 days. This is almost 11 days shorter than a solar year. The time it takes for the Earth to orbit the Sun, which is about 365.25 days. Why does this matter? Well, this discrepancy means that a purely lunar calendar quickly falls out of sync with the seasons. After just 3 years, the calendar would be off by a whole month. A festival that was supposed to happen in spring would eventually drift into the middle of winter. For an agricultural society, this was a disaster. You can't plant your crops based on a calendar that tells you it's spring when snow is still on the ground. This brings us to one of the earliest known attempts to create a more sophisticated calendar. Let's travel to Aberdeenshire, Scotland. Here, archaeologists discovered a series of 12 pits that appear to mimic the phases of the moon. Dating back to around 8000 BC, this site, known as the Warrenfield Pits, is considered by many to be the world's oldest calendar. It wasn't just a simple lunar tracker. The pits were arranged in an arc, and it seems the hunter-gatherer communities who built it also used it to track the winter solstice. This allowed them to recalibrate their lunar year with the solar year, ensuring their calendar didn't drift too far from the seasons. It was a monumental intellectual achievement, a way of reconciling the two great timekeepers of the sky, the sun and the moon. Now, let's journey south to a civilization renowned for its mastery of engineering, mathematics, and astronomy, ancient Egypt. The Egyptians faced a unique and vital annual event, the flooding of the Nile River. This flood was the lifeblood of their civilization, depositing fertile silt that made agriculture possible in the desert. Predicting its arrival was crucial. The Egyptians noticed that the annual flood coincided with the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. The heliacal rising is the first day of the year that a star is visible just before sunrise. For the Egyptians, this event, which they called Sopdet, happened around the same time every year and heralded the coming flood. This celestial signal was far more reliable than their lunar calendar. So the brilliant Egyptian astronomers and priests developed a new system. They created a civil calendar that had 365 days. No more, no less. It was beautifully simple. They divided the year into 12 months of 30 days each. This gave them 360 days. To get to 365, they added 5 extra days at the end of the year. These were special festival days dedicated to the birthdays of their gods. This 365-day calendar was a huge improvement. It was stable, predictable, and much better aligned with the solar year and the all-important seasons. For centuries, this calendar was the administrative backbone of the Egyptian empire, used for collecting taxes, organizing labor, and recording history. However, even the clever Egyptians knew their calendar wasn't perfect. They were aware that the solar year is actually about 365 and a quarter days long. Their 365-day calendar ignored that extra quarter of a day. This might seem like a tiny error, but over time, it adds up. Every 4 years, their calendar would be off by 1 full day. Over a century, it would be off by 25 days. While their civil calendar was kept simple for administrative purposes, it's believed that their priests maintained a more complex secret calendar that accounted for this drift, ensuring their religious rituals remained aligned with the true astronomical seasons. The quest for a perfect calendar didn't stop in Egypt. Other great civilizations were also tackling the problem. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians and later the Babylonians were obsessive astronomers. They kept detailed records of celestial events on clay tablets. They also used a lunisolar calendar, trying to merge the lunar months with the solar year. To solve the 11-day shortfall, they developed a system of intercalation. This meant they would periodically add an extra month into their year. It was a bit messy. For a long time, the decision to add a leap month was made by decree, based on observations. You might get a royal announcement that this year would have 13 months to get things back on track. Later, they discovered the Metonic cycle, a 19-year cycle where the lunar and solar years almost perfectly align. This allowed them to regularize their calendar, adding leap months in a predictable pattern. Meanwhile, across the globe in Mesoamerica, civilizations like the Maya were developing calendars of incredible complexity and accuracy. The Maya actually used multiple interlocking calendars simultaneously. They had a 260-day sacred calendar known as the Tzolkin and a 365-day solar calendar called the Hab. These two calendars ran in parallel, creating a larger 52-year cycle. Their calculation of the solar year's length was astonishingly precise, even more so than the one used in Europe at the time. Their astronomical observations and mathematical prowess were truly centuries ahead of their time. But for the calendar that most of us use today, we have to turn our attention to Rome. The early Roman calendar was a chaotic mess. It originally had only 10 months and was about 304 days long, starting in March and ending in December. The winter days were just an uncounted period. Later they added January and February. But the length of months was inconsistent, and the pontiffs in charge of the calendar often manipulated it for political gain, lengthening a year to keep their allies in office or shortening it to oust their rivals. This brings us to one of history's most famous figures, Julius Caesar. By 46 BC, the Roman calendar had drifted so far from the seasons that it was a complete joke. Caesar, advised by the Alexandrian astronomer Sosigenes, decided to reform it once and for all. He adopted the Egyptian model of a 365-day year, but he also addressed the pesky quarter-day problem. His solution was simple and brilliant. Add an extra day every 4 years. We call this a leap year. To get the calendar back in sync, 46 BC became the longest year in history, a year of confusion that lasted 445 days. This new system, the Julian calendar, was a massive step forward in accuracy and stability. The Julian calendar was so good that it dominated the Western world for over 1600 years. But it had one tiny flaw. The solar year isn't exactly 365.25 days. It's a little bit shorter by about 11 minutes. Again, a tiny error, but over centuries it added up. By the 16th century, the Julian calendar was off by about 10 days. This was a particular problem for the Catholic Church, as the date of Easter, which is tied to the spring equinox, was drifting earlier and earlier into the year. Enter Pope Gregory XIII. In 1582, he introduced another reform. The Gregorian calendar, which is the one most of us use today, made a subtle but crucial tweak to the Julian leap year rule. The new rule was a year is a leap year if it's divisible by 4, except for end-of-century years, which must be divisible by 400. So the year 2000 was a leap year, but 1900 was not. This tiny adjustment makes the Gregorian calendar remarkably accurate, off by only 1 day every 3,300 years or so. To implement the change, Pope Gregory also decreed that 10 days be skipped. So, in October 1582, people went to sleep on Thursday the 4th and woke up on Friday the 15th. As you can imagine, this caused quite a bit of confusion and resistance, but eventually the Gregorian calendar was adopted worldwide. From ancient hunter-gatherers marking notches on a bone, to Babylonian priests scanning the heavens, and Roman pontiffs fixing a broken system, the story of the calendar is the story of humanity's relentless quest for order and understanding. It's a testament to our ability to observe, calculate, and improve upon the knowledge of those who came before us. Every time you check your phone for the date, you are connecting to this incredible legacy of thousands of years of human ingenuity. So what do you think is the most fascinating part of this story? The ancient Scottish moon trackers, or the Maya's complex interlocking systems? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on Who Created It and How. If you enjoyed this journey through time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration. See you in the next video.